Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. And earlier, yesterday, we got a brand new blue post announcing additional class buffs and changes that are arriving with the next week's weekly reset, that being Tuesday for the region of NA or Wednesday for the region of EU. In just a handful of days, a variety of class specs are about to receive a bunch of new buffs, from specs such as Retribution Paladins, Feral Druids, Blood Death Knights, Holy Priests, and so many others receiving PvE adjustments, as well as major survivability changes specifically for PvP content, with plenty of playstyles seeing additional PvP specific tuning. So for today's video, I wanted to cover this entire blue post to make sure that every single one of you are kept in the know about how your class is changing or evolving come the next Tuesday, Wednesday reset. But right before that, most of you guys watching these kind of update videos are still not subscribed. However, the more of you remind, the more of you do, so let's keep it going. Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell if you're watching these videos anyway. Especially if you want to get more regular content regarding Dragonflight 10.2.5 or any of the future updates going forward. Starting off, we have the class of Blood Death Knight, where all three specs are seeing improvements. For Blood Death Knights, the Bone Shield will now grant additional armor based on 80% of their strength instead of 70%, while both Frost and Unholy are seeing a roughly 4% overall ability and even pet damage increase. For Druids, Feral Druids are going to rip into the targets as all of the bleeds are getting increased, with Rip getting a 10% damage buff, Ray getting a 5%, and even Primal Wrath receiving a 10%. We also see talents such as Feral Frenzy get amped by 5%, Lunar Inspiration damage over time arcane damage by 10%, and Rampant Ferocity cleave damage by 25%. Most of these will apply for PvE content, but some will also make it into PvP as well. For Restoration Druids, we're not seeing direct healing increases, but rather mana cost reductions, which will allow Restoration to push the mana to its limits to achieve some of the biggest healing output. Then we got Survival Hunters with a quick 4% damage increase for all base abilities and pet damage abilities, which is a nice increase, but I doubt it'll bring Survival closer to the forefront, even though the spec is incredibly fun in 10.2.5. For Paladins, Holy Paladin, a healing paladin, is getting damage increases for both its Shield of the Righteous and Consecration, amped by 30%. But Holy is not the only spec seeing damage increases, as Retribution is seeing buffs to its base abilities such as Blade of Justice, Final Verdict, as well as a Wake of Ashes talent, as well as all of its supporting talents, increased by 10, 20, and even 28% in certain cases for both PvE as well as PvP content. Next, we're seeing the class of Priest, where the spec of Holy sees a variety of damage and healing improvements. On the healing side, we have abilities such as Holy Word Sanctify increased by 25%. The ability of Heal as well as Flash Heal also see healing improvements for better single target output. For damage, we see spells like Chastise and Smite buffed by 30%, as well as a damage increase to Shadow Word Pain. Then we have the spec of Shadow Priest, where we see single target damage increase from Mind Blast as well as Devouring Plague, both improved by 10%, while the passive Shadowy Apparitions will do 20% additional damage for both cleave as well as single target encounters. But as Shadow Priest single target damage grows, so does their cleave thanks to the passive of Psychic Link. Which, by the way, Psychic Link is also going to see a damage increase, as they're going to allow 30% of single target damage to be cleaved to other targets suffering your Vampiric Touch. Then we have Restoration Shaman, where all of the healing effects are buffed by 5%. Not only is the healing buffed, but so is the damage, with Lava Burst, Flame Shock, and Lightning Bolt all increased by 20%, which could allow Battle Shamans, which are Resto Shamans focused on mostly damage with some healing support skills, to maybe shine in future content updates. The spec of Arms Warrior is seeing some AoE and cleave damage increases, with both their main ability of Cleave buffed by 10%, the talent of Dreadnought Cleave buffed by 30%, as well as the passive damage of the Deep Wounds Bleed increased by 15%, which are all sizable bonuses. On top of it, their Midrissal Force bonus is now going to buff the extra additional Thunderclap proc damage by 200% instead of 100%, but none of these changes are going to apply for PvP combat. Protection Warriors also see buffs as well, mostly when it comes to their survivability, where the passive of Vanguard is going to grant him additional stamina, while Ignore Pain Absorption effect is being buffed by 5%. Next, we got some generalized PvP specific changes, starting with armor adjustments for Cloth and Plate classes. Class specializations are now going to gain 35% additional armor in arenas and PvP situations, but plate specializations are going to lose 30% armor within PvP encounters. This kind of balances out classes like cloths and plates to be a little bit closer in armor value to leather and mail classes, where clothies such as priests, warlocks, and mages are going to be a little bit sturdier, while purely plate anti-physical classes like death knights, paladins, and warriors are going to in the end be a bit more susceptible to damage. So a bit of a win and a bit of a loss depending on the class that you play. However, to make sure that all our classes remain relatively tanky within PvP, to make sure that the game is not too fast-paced when it comes to bursts and cooldowns, class-based stamina is being increased through the Gladiator's Distinction Trinket 2-set bonus, which is now going to increase our stamina by additional 10%, or by additional 5% if you are a healer. Also, all fear as well as root effects are now going to take 100% more damage before cancelling out in PvP combat. This in turn should make fears and root effects much more consistent when it comes to player versus player encounters. It should make it more reliable as a defensive tool or even a crowd control tool offensively. For fear-focused classes like priests and warlocks, or root classes like druids or mages for instance, this should actually give them a little bit of a leg up in PvP combat. Next, we have a mixed bag of PvP changes, starting with Unholy Death Knights, which are seeing actually damage reductions as of this update, with both Festering Wound as well as Death Coil seeing damage decreases, but also reduction to the Necrotic Wound Healing Absorption effect. For druids, Moonkin form is now going to provide them only 100% additional armor instead of 125, which is going to make Moonkins feel a little bit squishier. Certain talents such as Deep Roots are going to be a little bit less effective since the base value of Roots and Fears is now being increased globally as of this update. Feral Druids' self-defensiveness or Frenzied Regen should be a little bit stronger as of this update, and Restoration's mana is being slightly reduced to account for some of the most recent PvE changes. For mages, the PvP talent of Rigid Ice does see reductions in terms of its effectiveness thanks to the baseline root value increases. And also their Emergency 4-set tier set bonus is no longer reduced in effectiveness within PvP. Woodwalker Monks are set to lose some burstiness as their Emergency 2-set bonus sees an 80% PvP damage reduction. Disciple Priest 2-set bonus will no longer be reduced in effectiveness within PvP. Subtlety Rogues managed to take a 10% damage reduction to their Eviscerate Burst ability, while Restoration Shamans see their armor values reduced by 12.5%. Finally, Fury Warrior's talent of Anger Management will now reduce the cooldown of Recklessness as well as Ravager by 1 second per 15 rage spent, down from 20 rage, which means even better cooldown reduction for every point of rage consumed. And that's going to be the full list of class buffs and PvP changes that are arriving just this Tuesday or Wednesday reset, depending on your region, which is in a couple of days. Which overall seems like a good set of buffs that many have been wanting for. Currently, the meta is very much shaped by mages, demon hunters, and rogues, so it's good seeing some of the less represented class specs seeing damage increases, and might even allow certain playstyles to shine a little bit better in content like PvP, raids, or dungeons. The PvP specific changes are also quite interesting, especially the armor adjustments, and I really do wonder how this is going to impact classes like warriors, death knights, and paladins, which are so heavy on armor, which gives them passive physical damage reduction. But also I think specs like priests and mages are probably going to love the armor increases, though it might make warlocks who already have some armor advantages maybe just as strong as that of a warrior or a paladin in the next week's reset. As per usual, I want to hear all of your guys' thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about this new set of changes arriving in just a handful of days to the patch 10.2.5? Are you part of the crowd that's excited about some of these upcoming class buffs, or are you worried about the fallout that could result with some of these upcoming changes? In either crowd, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As per usual, if you guys enjoyed this video or found it informative, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. And as always, in the description of every single video and live stream, we have a link to our Discord community channel. Probably the best place to reach out to me directly in case you want to let me know what you thought about this video or hang out with the rest of the community to discuss some of the upcoming changes. Join our Discord to become part of the community. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. And as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.